Okay, I'm Addie.
I'm Timothy Yoder.
And I'm Lauren Bateman.
I just want to introduce this. We're doing nursing home care. Just imagine yourself like your mom, your grandma, you're looking for care, and it's hard. You want that compassionate, attentive care. You want it localized. But nursing homes, in-home care, it's expensive. It's, there's limited availability, and you just want that good care you can find. And this turns into a social problem or a social issue because we realize that that generation of our population is such a large number. There's a lot of people in care who need care and who will be needing care, which leads us to our problem statement. And there is a lack of generative resources for the power of attorney, family members, or the patients themselves to utilize and create an assisted living plan. So as we dig into this, you see that there's poor care provided to these patients, and there's such a large ratio that it's hard to get that quality care one would desire. Private home care provides better care for the patient, so that's that in-home care, but it's more difficult to organize, and it's hard for the power of attorney or a family member to find it and allocate those resources. And then really narrowing in is enabling the care provider and working with them to find the best care for the patient and allow them to have that.
So going on to our current approach about things. So currently, most of the time when care is needed, most people will either turn to word of mouth, they'll go to a search engine site, most popular like Google, Bing, anything like that, and then they'll start making phone calls. And we actually spoke with a director from Visiting Angels. She's actually an administrator. Her name is Heather Kern. And she gave us some insight that there are currently 11 in-home care providers in the tri-state area, but there's a multitude of nursing homes that offer different levels of care and specialize in different levels of care. So she pinpointed that, the nursing home care, the ratio is quite larger with a 1:18 or 1:20 ratio versus the in-home care, which is more desirable at a 1:1 ratio. And then that brings us to our opportunity gap, where we kind of summarize that most of the time, most care is needed unexpectedly, and it's needed at a point when maybe an individual is distraught over the state of a loved one. And so that leaves a lot of people with questions, and they don't ask the right questions. And then that also correlates to not having one general site that they can go to for all of this the simplified care that they need and the answers that they need to find that care. And then, no, you're okay. Most of the time they're unaware, and we are actually currently unaware of any company that does have this sort of kind of simplified version of finding care.
Right, to correlate it correctly, yeah.
Yes.
And then to move on to kind of the market scale and to look at the scope of the actual issue with it, kind of quantify it. Here in Evansville, about 15% or 15.5% of the population is over 65. And with that, that's a trend you see in both Indiana and the United States. So it runs right about there at 15.5%. And in Indiana, it's about 1 million people over 65, and then in the United States, it's about 51 million. We wanted to focus in on that is because those people over 65, they may not be needing assisted care, but they have a very good chance of needing assisted care in the future. And so that's why we want to focus in on that. It's a very good trend, kind of to watch the trend for that. And then finally with that is also we have the growth of the baby boomer generation in our area and in the states. And so if you look with, let me see here, this graph here, back in 2010 in the Census Bureau took the census for the nation. Baby boomer generation was starting out at about 63 years old. And then in 2017, this is more of an estimated term, but they're looking at about 70 years old. So now they're knocking on the door of the assisted care or nursing care in some way, shape, or form. And so with that, we also looked at the cost breakdown, the annual average costs of assisted in-home care, with national being about just over 45,000, Indiana being just under 45,000, and Visiting Angels average kind of for the local area is just right at 30,000. The little difference with Visiting Angels is that they actually do more just strictly assistive care, and so sometimes their professional care is not quite as focused, and they're focused on that 1-to-1 ratio and assisting people. So for example, one thing they don't do is they will not measure out prescribed drugs for the patient or whatever. They will take them if they are already measured out and for that person. So like I said, that focuses on the problem pain statement. There's a lot of information and a lot of opportunities and for people to go into assisted care, but there's a really hard way to find it and collaborate it all and find the best option to meet all the needs of that patient.
All right.